The young McDonald couple, moments after realizing their 19-month-old son Michael had disappeared into the waves, in April of 1954. The McDonalds were walking along the beach while Michael was playing near the water, seemingly crawling toward the sea while they were not paying attention. The photo shows Russian ambassador to Turkey, Andrei Karlov, standing in an art gallery, about to give a speech. Behind him is Mevlut Mert Altuntaş, the man who would later assassinate Karlov. Altuntaş, a Turkish police officer, shot the ambassador during the event. This photo shows physicist Harold Agnew in 1945 as he carries the plutonium core of the Fat Man nuclear bomb, which was dropped on Nagasaki. The bomb, with its devastating power, was responsible for a large-scale tragedy, killing up to 80,000 people due to the explosion and subsequent effects. These photos show members of the Auschwitz team enjoying their days off, relaxed, and smiling. However, these people were involved in one of the greatest horrors in history, being responsible for killing thousands of people in indescribable ways. This photo shows Lina Marcela Medina de Jurado, the youngest mother in recorded history, with her child and the doctor who accompanied her. Lina gave birth to her first child at the age of 5 years, 7 months, and 21 days after becoming pregnant when she was still under 5 years old. She is the documented youngest case of precocious puberty. Juana Barraza, former wrestler. Her mother sold her to a man when she was just 12 years old in exchange for 3 beers, and she was only rescued by her stepfather when she was 17. She became known as La Mata Viejitas, the old woman killer, murdering elderly women, strangling them while pretending to work for the government. Rainbow Valley on Mount Everest is an area known for its frozen bodies, which remain there due to the extreme conditions of the mountain. The name does not refer to rainbows, but rather to the colorful jackets that climbers wore before they died, creating a grim and vivid scene. A visitor at Zixiaku Wildlife Park in China. In 2016, Li Jun spent the day at the park sharing photos and videos of animals on his social media. However, after an imprudent selfie with a 1.5-ton walrus, the enormous creature dragged Li Jun into the water, where he tragically drowned. Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon went on a short hike near a resort in the Panama Mountains in 2014. They were hiking in a remote area, and after a period of no contact, their families became worried and sought police assistance. This photo, seemingly accidental, shows a part of blonde hair, but the truth behind it is much more frightening. The image was found on Lisanne Froon's camera. The photo, taken during her hike in the forest, shows what seems to be the back of Kremer's head. Months later, parts of Lisanne and Chris's bodies were found, along with the camera. Sailor Gilliams and Brendan Vega were hiking in Santa Barbara County, California, on a dangerous route. After a fall, both were severely injured. The next day, a group of hikers photographed the same route, unaware that Gilliams was visible in the background, motionless, with serious fractures. The photo was taken in October of 2003 during Gabe and Tina Watson's honeymoon in Australia. At first glance, the image seems to be a happy moment, but upon closer inspection, Tina can be seen submerged at the bottom of the sea. After the tragedy, an investigation raised suspicions, and he was accused of murdering his wife to collect insurance money. David Shaw, on the left in the photo, moments before his final dive in deep waters. Shaw was attempting to recover the body of Dion Dreyer, who had passed away during a previous expedition. In January of 2005, while attempting this risky task, Shaw also died, a victim of a combination of exhaustion and lack of oxygen. This photo was taken by Alan Hruby, a freshman at the University of Oklahoma, during an Oklahoma versus Texas football game in Dallas. Alan was with friends at the hotel and posted this photo on Instagram, seemingly trying to create an alibi after committing a horrific act. The day before, he had murdered his parents and sister at home. This security camera image shows Shanann Watts shortly before her death. Just hours later, she and her two young daughters, aged only 3 and 4, would be murdered by her husband, Chris Watts. He committed the crimes in August of 2018 with the goal of starting a new life with the woman he was cheating on Shanann with. In June of 2014, 24 engineering students from Hyderabad, India, were on an educational tour in Himachal Pradesh. During a stop near the Beas River to take photos, a wave of water was suddenly released from a local hydroelectric plant. The wave surprised the students and swept them away, resulting in all their deaths. Daylen Pua, 18 years old, disappeared in 2018 while attempting to climb the Haiku Stairs, a popular but dangerous trail located on Oahu, Hawaii. The stairs, also known as the Stairs of the Pacific, have 3,922 steps and offer stunning views, but are illegal and frequently associated with accidents. Before disappearing, he took a photo of a mysterious shadowy man lurking in the bushes, which added to the enigmatic situation. The case generated speculation and fear, but to this day, Daylen's fate remains unknown. H. Holmes is known for killing tourists during the World's Columbian Exposition. In addition to being a murderer, he was a pharmacist, and the patients who depended on his services had no idea that, in the basement of his property, he kept a torture dungeon where his victims were tortured and murdered. John Wayne Gacy is a serial killer responsible for 33 confirmed murders of men and boys during the 1970s. Before his arrest, Gacy performed as Pogo, or Patches the Clown, at parties, children's hospitals, and political and charity events, using his clown persona to gain the trust of his victims and the community. This security camera capture shows Elisa Lam in an elevator, portraying some of the last moments of her life before her tragic death at the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. Her death, found later in a water tank on top of the hotel, sparked speculations and theories. In the photo, Jeffrey Franklin, 17 years old, smiles from the back seat of a car in Huntsville, Alabama. However, the car is a police vehicle, and the teenager is being taken into custody after killing his parents, Gerald and Cynthia Franklin, and severely injuring his 3 younger siblings. When questioned about why he tried to kill his whole family, Jeffrey claimed that an evil being with horns began to emerge from his head and eyes, taking control of his body and forcing him to commit the crime. The case caused great shock and sparked discussions about mental health and the influence of delusions. The photo shows the Lawson family shortly before Charlie Lawson, who was on the far right in the last row, committed familicide. In December of 1929, Charlie killed his wife and children. The crime, which took place in North Carolina, became one of the most horrific family tragedies in United States history. This photo shows Perry Smith and Richard Hickok leaving the court after the jury announced the verdict in the Clutter case. The two were convicted of the murder of Herbert Clutter, his wife Bonnie, and their 2 children, Nancy and Kenyon, in 1959 in Holcomb, Kansas. Smith and Hickok were sentenced to death and executed in 1965. Dean, known as the Candyman, is one of the most notorious serial killers in the United States. In 2012, a filmmaker gained access to Dean's belongings, stored in an old bus. Among the items, he found a Polaroid showing a boy handcuffed near Dean's torture instrument box. This photo of Jonna, 17 years old, was taken on the day she disappeared after leaving home for a run. Later, she was found burned alive in an abandoned barn. The case shocked the community and sparked an investigation, but the truth behind her murder remains a mystery to this day. This photo shows Bart Whitaker on the right with his family, moments before a tragic event. That night, Bart paid two of his friends to murder his mother and brother. The attack was successful, but his father, who was taking the photo, survived the attack. He is currently serving a life sentence. This image shows astronauts Virgil Gus Grissom, Roger Chaffee, and Edward White during capsule training for the Apollo 1 mission, which was to be launched into Earth's orbit. Tragically, on January 27, 1967, a fire occurred during a test in the capsule, resulting in the deaths of all three astronauts. These are the last images of Danwan High School students taken aboard the MV Seawall just before the tragic sinking of the ferry in April of 2014 in South Korea. The students, who were on a school trip, were instructed to stay still and wait for rescue, which ended up being fatal for many. The ferry capsized and sank, and most of those who followed the instructions died. Only those who disobeyed the order and sought a route of escape managed to survive. The disaster caused the death of over 300 people, most of them students, and sparked an intense debate over negligence and failures in the security responses. In what seems like a normal scene, a family is enjoying the wildflower season and taking a photo. However, just below the wife, a rattlesnake is rapidly heading toward her forearm. The wife was bitten but managed to survive the attack, but the dog died from the snake's venom. The photo, ripped by Sinead O'Connor on Saturday Night Live in 1992 of Pope John Paul II, carries a deep meaning. The image was the only thing her abusive mother had on her wall, and after her mother's death, Sinead took the photo and tore it, making a powerful statement against child abuse, something she herself had experienced in her childhood. Two children posing with Mount St. Helens erupting in the background in May of 1980. The volcano erupted devastatively, releasing a massive amount of ash and destruction, causing the deaths of more than 50 people. This photo shows a group of astronauts and scientists enjoying a pre-launch breakfast, moments before boarding the historic space shuttle Challenger flight in 1986. Although their faces are not immediately recognizable without their suits, this is one of the last photos taken of the Challenger crew. Banaz Mahmoud was talking to the police in October of 2005 when she reported that after leaving her abusive husband, her family and members of the Kurdish community had threatened to kill her. Tragically, Banaz was killed by her own family in January of 2006. This photo shows Cheyenne Rose Antoine, left, posing for a selfie with the belt used to kill her friend, Brittany Gargle, right, in March of 2015. The photo, which was posted on Facebook, was crucial in solving the crime in Canada. Cheyenne, 21 years old, was sentenced to 7 years in prison for manslaughter after killing Brittany, 18 years old. The man dressed as Santa Claus in the photo is Bruce MacArthur, a landscaper who also worked as Santa Claus at Agincourt Mall during the holiday season. Between 2010 and 2017, MacArthur used a dating app to lure men, murder them, and scatter their remains in plant boxes on the properties he managed. The original cover of the fifth studio album by the rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd, Street Survivors, showed the band surrounded by a fiery landscape. 3 days after the album's release, a tragic plane crash killed several members of the band. The album cover became a symbol of a sad coincidence. This image from a security camera shows what appears to be two young boys, John Venables and Robert Thompson, escorting an even younger child. This is the last known photo of James Bulger, a boy only 3 years old, who was abducted from a shopping mall by Venables and Thompson in 1993. This photo shows Igor Dyatlov, a hiker and adventurer exploring the Ural Mountains in Russia. Dyatlov was known for his challenging expeditions, but unfortunately, he would lose his life in what would become known as the Dyatlov Pass incident. In 1959, he and his team of 9 climbers died under mysterious circumstances while attempting to scale Mount Otorten. In 2019, Yuka Takaoka was arrested for brutally attacking and almost killing her boyfriend, a crime that shocked many due to its violent nature. However, she quickly gained a fan base composed of men who believed she was too cute to be such a cruel criminal, a phenomenon that generated much controversy. This photo shows kamikaze pilots petting a puppy the day before their final mission. These Japanese pilots, who were part of suicide attacks during the World War II, often faced certain death on their missions. This photo shows Howard Ashman and Alan Menken on the night they won the Oscar for the song Under the Sea from The Little Mermaid. After the ceremony, Ashman told Menken they needed to have a serious conversation when they returned to New York. Upon arrival, Ashman revealed to Menken that he had AIDS and did not have much time left to live. This is Wallace Hartley's violin, the principal violinist of the Titanic. Hartley carried it with him and played it on the night of the sinking, when the ship went down in April of 1912. Survivors reported seeing Hartley and his band on the ship's deck, playing music to calm passengers while they tried to board the lifeboats, which were insufficient for everyone aboard. These are the last known images of Kevin Jiang, 26 years old, proposing to his girlfriend in Connecticut shortly before his tragic death. 1 week later, on February 6, 2021, Kevin was shot and killed in an attack. Shannon Nunez captured this photo shortly before jumping off a cliff in Hawaii at a popular cliff diving spot. Her jump was a recreational dive, and she was excited to experience it. However, after the jump, Shannon was tragically swept away by strong currents in the sea and drowned. This is one of the last known photos of Will Norton, taken at his graduation from Joplin High School on May 22, 2011. On the way back home, the infamous EF5 tornado hit Joplin, one of the most devastating natural tragedies in the region. Unfortunately, Will was one of the fatal victims, swept away by the force of the tornado. This is the last Christmas photo of Peter, Sue Kim, and Christine Lee Hansen, taken in 2000. 9 months later, on September 11, 2001, the family tragically died aboard United Airlines Flight 175 when the plane crashed into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. Christine, only 2.5 years old, was the youngest victim of the attack. The Anderson family posing for a portrait together in April of 1912, just before Anders and Alfreda Anderson and their 5 children boarded the Titanic to emigrate from their home in Sweden to Canada. Unfortunately, all 7 lost their lives in the sinking. This photo shows Rosalind Carter, the First Lady of the United States, shaking hands with John Wayne Gacy, a notorious serial killer. Gacy, who would later be convicted of killing 33 young men, led a seemingly normal life, making his crime even more shocking when discovered. Libby German took this photo of Abby Williams on the bridge in February of 2017 during a hike on a trail in Delphi, Indiana, United States. The next day, their bodies were found near the trail, along with their cell phones, leaving a mystery that has not been fully solved to this day. The photo was taken in 1998 during a school event, where Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold can be seen in the upper left, pointing at the camera with their hands shaped like guns. The following year, in 1999, both carried out the attack on Columbine High School in the United States, resulting in the death of 12 people. Chris Benoit, famous professional wrestler, was captured in this photo by a fan in a doctor's office waiting room on June 22, 2007. On that same day, he committed a tragic act, murdering his wife and son. Investigations revealed that Benoit was dealing with family difficulties and mental health problems. In this photo, serial killer John Edward Robinson, known for his crimes, appears in a yellow sweater holding baby Tiffany Stassi. The image was taken one day before he murdered Tiffany's mother, Lisa. Robinson, who was convicted of several murders, used his position of trust to deceive his victims. In 1984, after posting bail for a rape charge, William Richard Bradford met waitress Sherry Miller and promised to help her start her modeling career. She agreed to a photo shoot at a remote location near Los Angeles. After a few photos, Bradford strangled her, cut her tattoos, and discarded her body in an alley in Hollywood. Naomi, a 4-year-old girl, left her final footprints near a lake where she drowned. According to the Larimer County Coroner's Office, the cause of death was drowning, but hypothermia was also considered a significant contributing factor. Mark Jackson's basketball card captures a typical moment of a game, but in the background, a disturbing scene unfolds. Brothers Lyle and Eric Menendez are seated on the court with distant and cold expressions shortly after murdering their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez, in August of 1989. The last photograph of David Johnston was taken by Henry Glicken as he was leaving the Coldwater 2 Observatory in May of 1980. Just 13 hours later, Johnston lost his life in the eruption of Mount St. Helens, which devastated the region with a massive explosion. The man on the left is Dennis Rader, the infamous BTK killer, responsible for killing 10 people over 25 years. Despite being a respected and beloved member of his community, working as a security systems technician, scout leader, church president, and being a father of 2, Rader was a sadistic serial killer. The photo shows Issei Sagawa, a Japanese cannibal, taken after his release from prison due to insanity. He was convicted of the murder of Renee Hartevelt. Sagawa wrote a detailed book about the murder, explicitly describing how his twisted mind associated eating her with a romantic gesture. The image was found on the camera of 2 tourists who were among the victims of the 2004 tsunami, one of the largest natural tragedies in history, which caused the deaths of over 230,000 people. The tsunami hit several countries around the Indian Ocean, devastating beaches and entire cities. The image shows a moment from the TV game show The Dating Game, broadcast in the 1970s. The man on the right is Rodney Alcala, a serial killer who, while participating in the show, was on a killing spree. Between 1977 and 1979, he killed at least 5 people. This image was captured during a live video broadcast by a Japanese man as he was climbing Mount Fuji off-season, an extremely dangerous activity due to the harsh weather conditions. His last words, "This is very dangerous," were spoken moments before his death. This photo shows Dean Corll, one of the most well-known serial killers in the United States, posing with his half-sister. Corll was responsible for the murder of at least 28 young people between 1970 and 1973, and was known as the Candyman due to his work as a landscaper and his facade as a regular man. Chris McCandless ventured alone into nature, where he met his end in an abandoned bus, which became a symbol of his journey. The cause of his death is debated, with some theories pointing to exposure and starvation, while others suggest that he ingested poisonous fruits. This photo shows Sydney Loof taking a selfie just before meeting the man she met on the Tinder dating app. On the night of November 15th, 2017, after this photo was taken, Sydney was brutally murdered by her date, a crime that shocked the community. This image was captured in a video documenting the last moments of Lisa Left Eye Lopes, a member of the group TLC. The photo was taken just before the tragic car accident that took her life in April of 2002 in Honduras. Lopez was traveling with friends when she lost control of the vehicle, resulting in a fatal crash. Ted Bundy was seen by everyone who knew him as a charming and successful man, volunteering on a suicide hotline and being a college graduate. However, he was responsible for the deaths of at least 36 women during the 1970s, committing crimes that made him one of the most notorious serial killers in the United States. Andrew Cunanan was a serial killer responsible for killing 5 people, including renowned fashion designer Gianni Versace. With an IQ of 147, Cunanan was considered a genius and was remembered by his classmates as a charming and intelligent student. This is the last real photo of Everly Livingston, 11 years old, and her older sister, Lydia, 14, taken shortly before their tragic death, along with their parents, Donna and Peter, in the accident that occurred on January 29, 2025, along the Potomac River. This is the last photo of Corey Van Vegel, a woman who disappeared while descending the Mardi Himal Trail in Nepal in February of 2018. Corey had traveled alone to do a trek and was only a few days away from completing her journey, with the goal of walking to the Mardi Himal base camp and returning to Pokhara. This is the last image of April Holt posted on her social media in July of 2023 to celebrate her birthday. However, only 22 days later, she was found dead. Initially, her death was considered an accident, but subsequent investigations revealed that she had been murdered by her husband. This photo of Anne Marie Burr, 8 years old, was taken 2 weeks before she disappeared from her home on the night of August 31, 1961, in Tacoma, Washington. The case received more attention when theories emerged that serial killer Ted Bundy, who lived in Tacoma at the time, could have been responsible for her abduction. This is the last photo taken by Spencer Lane, a passenger aboard a flight that tragically crashed in Washington, D.C., with no survivors. The image was captured shortly before the plane lost control and crashed, causing the death of all those aboard. This photo shows the crew of the Space Shuttle Columbia enjoying their mission, unaware that their shuttle had been irreparably damaged during launch. A few days later, Columbia disintegrated upon re-entry into the atmosphere, resulting in the death of all 7 astronauts aboard. This photo of Laia Graf with J.P. Morgan, widely shared at the time, drew significant attention, but she could not handle the sudden fame. Eventually, Laia returned to her home in Germany, where, during World War II, she was persecuted for being Jewish. She was arrested and deported to Auschwitz, where she was considered unfit by the Nazis. This photo shows serial killer Christopher Wilder lurking in the background during a 17 magazine fashion show at the Meadows Mall in Las Vegas in April of 1984. Wilder approached Michelle Korfman, 17 years old, who was participating in the event, and abducted and killed her shortly after the show. This is a photo of Tyler Hadley holding a cup during a party at his house. Just before this event, Hadley murdered his parents with a hammer and hid their bodies in the master bedroom. During the party, he showed his best friend, Michael Mandel, the location where he had committed the murders. This image shows Jeffrey Dahmer's refrigerator, the infamous serial killer, being removed by the police. Inside the refrigerator, human remains were found, including a head, a heart, and a partial skeleton of one of his victims. Dahmer was responsible for the deaths of 17 men and children. This photo shows Elizabeth Smart with a veil during a party while being held captive by her kidnapper, Brian David Mitchell, the man on the right. Elizabeth was kidnapped from her home in Salt Lake City, Utah in 2002 and remained missing for 9 months. During this time, she was forced to wear the veil to avoid being recognized in public. This photo, taken at a birthday party in Wales, may seem normal at first glance, but the green barrel on the left makes the scene much more sinister. At the time the photo was taken, the barrel contained the body of Edwina Boyle, who had been shot and killed by her husband, Frederick. This photo, taken during a CBS broadcast in 2022, shows Stockton Rush, CEO of OceanGate. Rush, known for his role in underwater travel innovation, was among the 4 passengers of the Titan who tragically lost their lives in 2023. The submersible imploded while conducting an expedition in the Atlantic Ocean. This photo shows a factory worker painting a watch face, a seemingly normal scene. However, it would become a symbol of workers' rights. The woman in this image is part of a group of women who worked in factories in the United States painting watch hands with radium-containing paint. Afghan Girl by Steve McCurry is one of the most iconic photographs in history. In 2002, when Sharbat Gula was identified, she expressed her anger at having her image become globally famous. She claimed that McCurry never obtained permission to take her photo, a violation of her cultural beliefs. During her trip to Lake Mitsaro, located in Cyprus, Sarah Funk and her partner were exploring the area and filmed a video where, at one point, a mysterious object appears floating in the water. It is believed that this object is a suitcase containing the remains of Nikos Metaxas's victims, a serial killer who killed several women and dumped their bodies in the lake. This is a selfie taken by Anne Faber on the last day of her life, moments before disappearing during a bike ride. The photo was taken while she was having a leisurely moment, but shortly after, Anne was reported missing. Her body was found 2 weeks later. These are the last known images of Mary and David Maynard with their 2 children, Colton and Brantley, during a vacation in Alaska. The family was enjoying their time together, but in August of 2024, the boat they were on capsized in turbulent waters. It is believed that all of them drowned in the accident. This is the last photo of Dorsa Ganchi with her brother Daniel, taken before they boarded Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752 in January of 2020. Both were aboard the flight that tragically crashed shortly after takeoff, resulting in the death of all 176 passengers and crew members aboard. This photo was taken by Kurt Diemberger after his companion, renowned climber Herman Buhl, fell into the abyss on Chogolisa Mountain in the Himalayas. During the climb, Buhl was behind Diemberger and, for a moment, left the trail. He fell from a protruding ledge, and despite rescue efforts, he did not survive.